Welcome back for another reaction video, guys. So we are checking out the weirdest car culture in Sweden. All right, guys, yes, can really check this one out. So if you're new to the channel, guys, welcome. But before you leave, that you become a part of the family. All right, guys, yes, I can't wait to check out this video. I don't know a lot about cars, but I'm sure gonna find out some about weirdest car culture. All right, so let's go.
Ever since the 1960s, there's been an infamous subculture in Sweden that centers around old
Wow.
American cars. These people are often ridiculed and satirized, but that doesn't seem to stop these car enthusiasts from expressing their love of American
Cars.
cars and American culture. Today I'm gonna have a look at Västerås Summer Meet, one of the biggest car meets in Sweden. And I'm also gonna dive into the
Wow.
history and the future of the subculture called Raggare.
Uh,
In 1984, a car cruising event called Power Meet started in the town of Västerås in Sweden. Thousands and later tens of thousands of people flocked to Västerås to show off their old American cars and to get drunk. Power Meet was actually the continuation of an event that started in 1978, but ever since 1984, it was held annually in Västerås. At first, the local municipality was a co-arranger of the event, but things changed in the beginning of
oh,
the
wow, look at that
2000s.
one.
The number of visitors exploded, and the number of complaints against the car meet exploded as well. This is a very family-friendly event, but Raggare isn't always known for being calm and quiet. Quite the opposite, actually. The municipality pulled out of the event, and they started to impose stricter and stricter requirements on the arranger of Power Meet,
Look at
a
one.
man called Kjell Gustafsson. Kjell Gustafsson was also robbed of a large sum of money, more than 1 million Swedish krona, when he was
Wow.
transporting money from Power Meet 2016. After that, Kjell Gustafsson shut down Power Meet in Västerås, and that made many people unhappy. This was the start of a conflict between Power Meet and what would become Västerås Summer Meet. A man called Claes Brink decided that that wasn't going to be the end of Power Meet. He announced that there would be an event in Västerås in 2017. This led to a heated discussion between Kjell and Claes, and Kjell pointed out that he owned the trademark to Power Meet, so Claes could expect a letter from his lawyer. Kjell also criticized Claes for being too inexperienced and that he wouldn't be able to handle such a massive event. There was a large debate about what would happen in 2017. Would Claes arrange a new car meetup? Or
Wow.
would Kjell arrange Power Meet in Västerås after all? In the end, Claes Brink's new event ended up being called Västerås Summer Meet, and Kjell Gustafsson moved Power Meet to the town of Lidköping. And both of these events have coexisted ever since then.
Oh, wow. Not gonna lie, looking at some of these cars, this vehicle. Wow. First time even seeing some of them, but look at them, you can tell like how proud the owners are of these vehicles and how much work they put into it to keep it in the state that it is. Like, guys, wow.
Power Meet in Lidköping is sometimes called the biggest car meetup in the world, with more than 20,000 cars.
Wow.
Västerås Summer Meet is pretty new in comparison, and it did get a rocky start, but it still attracts around 100,000 visitors.
Yeah,
There's also a lot of other
thing.
car meetups in Sweden. American Car Show in Norrtälje and Classic Car Week in Rättvik, for example, and many more. Some of the meetups are more aimed at collectors, and some are aimed at specific brands or models. And some are aimed at people who want to show off their cars while playing misogynic music, get drunk, and harass women. You see, Raggare is a bit of a weird subculture. It can refer to very serious collectors of classic cars, and it can also refer to the Swedish equivalent of hillbillies. Let's dive a bit more into the history of Raggare. In the post-World War II era, the Marshall Plan was doing wonders for Europe. The US helped Europe rebuild economically, and as a consequence, there was a lot of American influence on European countries, including Sweden. The US was seen as a place of hope, dreams, and forward thinking, and young people in Sweden happily adopted American culture. That included clothes, cars, music, and a lot more. The problem is that Sweden was quite a conservative country in the 1950s, and these young people who imported the greaser lifestyle from the US were diametrically opposed to Swedish values. These Swedish greasers became known as raggare. Ragg is the Swedish word for bristle, but it's also slang for picking up girls. Some believe that raggare got their name because of the
slang for picking up girls. Like that. Oh wow, this event seems like something, and I love all the way he's just breaking it down for you, like to letting you get a feel and knowledge of the whole event. Beautiful.
good appearance, and some believe it's because they aggressively chased women
Wow.
in the same manner as American greasers. Raggare drank a lot of booze, they fought, and they had a lot of random sex. Something that's very common these days, but back then it was quite anti-Swedish. They didn't want these loud and obnoxious kids around their small Swedish towns. And that's a sentiment that lived on past the 1950s. Raggare became synonymous with rough around the edges people who drink too much and behave indecently. It's a subculture that started out extremely modern. They imported the latest American trends and the latest American cars. And then they sort of remained in that mindset with the same culture and the same cars. And that culture might have been extremely forward-thinking and modern in the 1950s, but as Sweden became more and more progressive, it didn't really keep up.
Oh wow, progressive, man.
I'm not a connoisseur when it comes to American cars, or any cars at all actually, but the people at this event certainly are. I know that Chevrolet is a classic brand though, and has some of the most popular cars. And there's also a lot of Pontiacs and Oldsmobiles and Cadillacs. And of course, you can't forget about Ford.
Wow, these people.
In the 1990s, there was a Swedish TV show called Byhåla, Swedish for small town, that featured two raggare called Ronny och Ragge. They had a really crappy Ford that they pronounced Ford. That show was a semi-affectionate look at the raggar culture, as it had evolved from the 1950s greaser style to the raggare of the 1980s and 90s. Gone were the 1950s hairstyles and leather jackets, and instead you found a lot of blue jeans and slightly more modern American cars. It was still all American though. Even though raggare changed over time, it seems like the American connection was quite important. Ronny and Ragge was many people's introduction to raggare, and they also helped popularize the subculture. By that time, raggare had been in Sweden for more than 30 years, and the definition of the word had started to change. These days, raggare can refer to car enthusiasts who strictly deal with old American cars. But it can also refer to people who like to drink and fight and burn rubber out in the Swedish countryside. Some areas of Sweden are more infested.
Really? Are most infested? Oh no, sorry. Populated. You mean infested. It's all because of that. Why it is. I guess it's overpopulated because of that. That's serious. Right there, that part gets me. Anyway, sorry, I mean populated. You mean what you said. You said what you said. That's hilarious part. That part is hilarious, guys. What this video is surely interesting. The cars, though, the cars. Wow.
Populated by raggare than others, like Värmland, Dalarna, and Hälsingland, for example. And all of those places are pretty rural. That's where people tinker with old cars, where they meet and hang out, and where this modern take on the subculture is especially strong. Raggare often listen to rockabilly and music from the 1950s, but the music can also be more modern. Epadunk is a music genre that became popular in Sweden around 2020, and the music features heavy bass and lyrics about sex and alcohol. Which all modern music does, come to think of it, but these songs are a lot more explicit. And speaking of music, there's someone in particular that I need to mention when talking about raggare and music. You can't really talk about Swedish raggare without talking about Aaron Norstedt, better known as Eddie Meduza. Eddie Meduza was a composer who did rockabilly songs and a lot more. His songs were most of the time obscene and humorous, but also political and sometimes strangely poetic. He's most famous for his own songs, but he also wrote songs for other pop bands in Sweden. Eddie Meduza died in 2002 at the age of 53, but his songs are still played today. Who hasn't heard classic songs like Volvo, Drunkeball, and Mera Brännvin? These songs portray such themes as drinking, masturbating, and being overtaken.
Drinking, masturbating. Wow. I guess that's all erotic it song was, right? To get you go crazy, like
By a bloody Volvo when driving in your classic American car. One of his songs is called Punkjävlar, Bloody Punks, because in Sweden, punks and raggare are traditional enemies, which can also be illustrated by the Swedish punk band Rude Kids, who made a song called Raggare is a bunch of eloquence like that pretty much sums up many people's opinion about raggare. I don't know if I painted a fair picture of raggare or not, because it's a pretty complex subculture. It's full of love for American cars and American culture, but it's also filled with a lot of anti-establishment themes. It's rooted in the 1950s, but it's also adopted and adapted modern trends. It's beloved by some and hated and ridiculed by others. I'm sure that, just like with any other subculture, it's full of many different types of people. People who care deeply about the 50s, and people who don't care about history at all and just want to look forward instead. People who care deeply about the community, and some people who just want to drink and fight. But I suspect that one thing that's common for all the raggare is the love of freedom. Freedom from society, and freedom to live their lives just the way they want. That's probably something that was true for raggare back in the 1950s, just as it's true for raggare today. And there you have it. That was a quick look at Västerås Summer Meet and the Swedish subculture called raggare. I hope you found it interesting.
Oh yeah, I sure find it interesting indeed. Right, Dada. It just seems like it's showcasing of the cars, but at the same time it's about fun, drinking, and doing that other stuff. And meeting people, getting wild. Like you said, it's a mixture of different crowd. Some are there for the cars, some are just there to party, some are just there to have fun and to drink and to have an experience there. So yeah, I kind of get what he's saying. All right, guys, it was a good video. I enjoy watching and learning, like I said. So I'll catch you all in another reaction video. Thanks for watching.